When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Eagles fans, welcome back to another edition of Football 24/7. I'm your guy, Tone DeShields II, and I'm joined by none other, than our Philadelphia Eagles insider, John McMullen. Before we get too deep into the content, you guys know what you have to do. Smash the like button. Make sure you guys are engaged as always. Make sure you guys are always going back and forth in that live chat. I love seeing the banter. I love seeing you guys cannibalize each other. It's really entertaining for us as well. But also make sure you guys are subscribed to the JAKIB Sports YouTube channel. It means a lot to us. Now, John, man, I had a question for you before we got started into the football talk, but I wanted to reserve it for when we got on there because I feel like a lot of people, I feel like you're one of the most misunderstood guys on the network. And
wow.
Yeah, wow. I'll say misunderstood because you're very objective. You're very nuanced.
I don't have the pom-poms. I don't have the pom-poms. Everybody else has the pom-poms.
And you don't have the pom-poms, right? But let me ask you this, right? Please walk me through the daily grind of being a journalist covering the NFL, but most notably covering the Philadelphia Eagles. Walk me through your day-to-day or what a typical day is like for you in the life of an Eagles reporter.
Oh, I don't know how exciting that is. I mean, the morning I'm doing the show, obviously, that's the first thing that I do. And then generally, I have to race down to the NovaCare complex. And we have on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have practices, locker room, coaching, press conferences, some off the record stuff occasionally. So you're dealing with all that, and then you got to race home, you got to transcribe, you got to write, and all the while with this particular team, always. And we're seeing at this time of year with whether it's Shaq Leonard or Zach Ertz or even today, Adrian Amos, the Eagles might need a safety with Justin Evans. Everybody's, what about this guy? What about that guy? And how he's, you're always a text message away from another breaking story. So, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, especially with this particular team.
So you spend most of your time at NovaCare. Do you do most of your writing at NovaCare, or do you do most of your writing at home? How does that normally work for you?
It depends on the day and depends on where my wife is, what the dog needs. That's where real life comes into it. Sometimes I got to be home. I got to race home. So I'll write from home. If I have some, I'd rather write from there because there's less distractions and all that kind of stuff. So that's all dependent on real life stuff, moving Monday night, I always say, the only person more upset about that game being moved to Monday night than the reporters was Darius Slay, who was hilarious when he found out they were moving the game, and it wasn't about moving the game. He's a father. He's got real life duties, and it's a pain in the ass for him. And I think that's the part a lot of fans miss with pro athletes. They got real lives as well, so that factors into it.
A lot of the time fans think that these guys are just eat, sleeping, and breathing football. And it's like, well, not necessarily. It's a job at the end of the day. It's their career. And sure, you have guys who are gamers and they love the game, but a lot of these guys are parents, they're husbands, you know what I'm saying? Their sons, So like you said, the real life thing always has to come to the forefront, sticking in the real life element of things. This matchup between the Eagles and the 49ers, man. A lot of the play has made it into real life. It's a lot of the talk is going on off the field, right? With the 49ers feeling like they got robbed or they deserve to be where the Eagles were in that Super Bowl. And I'm curious to know, how do you process when not just players but people operate from this place of what they're owed and what they feel like they deserve, and instead of just listen, life happens and you got to roll with it.
Yeah, I mean, I brought up Slay. Slay got in trouble a lot when he mentioned Kansas City when I was talking to him, and I posted it on X, Twitter, formerly known as, where he said it wasn't a rivalry. And, he's telling the truth. I always say, man, people like people to lie to them. They really do. It's not a rivalry. And he got in a lot of trouble for it. And he was like, and then he went even further. He was talking about the Super Bowl loss. And he said, yeah, he's a competitor. He's very upset he lost. But again, I go back to the real life thing. Then he had to go home. Anybody saw the Amazon thing on Jason Kelsey saw the same thing. Of course he was upset, but then he's got to go back to his wife and his kids, and you got to suck it up and, do your best to get over that kind of stuff quickly. And then there's just the natural, you can't mope, and you got to move forward, whether you win or you lose, because, the next game's coming, whether it's next week or next year. You can't say woe is me, but if you're talking about the 49ers and chirping and all that kind of stuff, it's really a couple players.
Right.
It's not, it's not a theme. And that's always, I always say, round up 90 people, is everybody going to think the same way? Is everybody going to act the same way in a certain situation? I don't know why they think it would be the same with 90 people in an NFL organization. So there's always going to be, and then there's the wink, wink kind of stuff. I've been telling people all week, AJ Brown, Deebo Samuel are really close.
They're really good friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same agent as well, I think.
Yeah. And that's sort of like Brandon Graham. Brandon talks a lot of trash, and everybody sees the clips, and, nicest guy in the world, but when he's on the field, he's going to talk some trash. And, when Deebo talks trash, they don't like it because he's talking trash about their guy. He doesn't really think James Bradbury's trash. He just said it. Could he have used a better word? Yeah. But
yeah, Bradbury was funny about that. He said, I kind of wish you used a different word, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So, it's basically who's wearing your favorite. Jerry Seinfeld had a great joke. You're rooting for laundry, basically. Javon Hargrave, I saw a tweet today. It was hilarious. A certain someone took the 49ers out to dinner, and it was Javon. Why the hell can't he go out to dinner with his team and to a restaurant he likes in Philadelphia? He was a great player here. Got a lot of money to go to San Francisco. He took his new friends out to a place. What are you going to ban him from the city limits? Come on, people. And I just tweeted out, I said, it just tells me Javon's still a good guy. I mean, that's all that says.
Yeah, Javon was never a guy that was rambunctious or a guy that you really had to He never gave you a soundbite. He was, I mean, he was known as being more so the soft-spoken guy in the locker room, especially on the D line.
Yeah, he's very soft-spoken, and he's a good guy. He's a good guy. So that didn't change because his jersey changed.
Right,
Sorry.
right.
Sorry.
So this matchup has been hotly anticipated.
Game of the year.
Yes.
Game of the week. Game of the year.
You're saying okay? Are you saying that, or are you kind of just rolling with the narrative, or do you feel like this is?
I'm joking. They have a game of the year next week. I was laughing at and I don't want to say it was a radio guy who literally said, just like last week, it's the game of the year, and I'm saying to myself, you can only have one game of the year, and the Eagles had Kansas City. That was the game of the year. Some people even said Buffalo, but obviously now you have the game of the year against San Francisco. You'll be game of the year next week at Dallas. It's absurd. But it is a big game. The Eagles could kind of, put the final nail essentially in the coffin of the 49ers for that number 1 seed if they win the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to lose the game because you don't want to go into Dallas next week battling for first place. So it's a very important game. Is it the game of the year? Probably not, but it's a very important game. No question about it.
So let's approach it from this perspective, right? The 49ers, they played on Thanksgiving. They're well rested. They're as healthy. They're as healthy as they've been all year. The Philadelphia Eagles, on the other hand, not so much. They're coming off of 2 back-to-back matchups where your defense played north of 70 snaps and north of 90 snaps, respectively. In that Chiefs game and that Bills game, that's roughly, I want to say it's roughly about 160 snaps. Between 2 games. That's probably on average maybe 2.5, maybe 3 games worth of snaps at the most. For that defensive side of the ball. On top of that, Fletcher Cox is hurt. You're missing Zach Cunningham. Obviously, Justin Evans is not going to be available. What's been your thoughts on the?
By the way, what's the Justin Evans spike? They haven't had him for weeks.
Right. They haven't had him for weeks. Yeah, they haven't.
Now all of a sudden, this big deal. I don't.
What's so funny? I thought. Go ahead.
I feel bad for Justin. Justin's probably going to go back on injured reserve next week, and he's going to be.
Yeah, I heard about his situation. It's pretty rough. He was kind of banking on this year being a solid year for him, man.
And I thought early in the season he was playing pretty well. I
Agreed.
didn't think people gave him enough credit. I thought he was solid, but the Eagles eventually got better anyway with Kevin Byard, and they made the decision to get better. So it's disappointing for him, but yeah, I'm kind of surprised how much angst there is, only because he hasn't been there for weeks. So I mean, why is it all of a sudden a big issue? Where's Zach Cunningham? Somebody like that has been a starting linebacker, arguably your best linebacker, and he's going to be out for multiple weeks. I think. Hopefully, he can get back as soon as possible. But I think that's the bigger loss. Obviously, the Eagles have settled down the safety position as long as they stay healthy. And Kevin Byard's been a very durable player. And Reed Blankenship, has missed a couple games, so you can't just assume he's going to be healthy. But when he's out there, he's obviously 100% guy. So I'm not sure. And Justin, I was just trying to flip through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive games, 7 of 8. So it's not like he's been around.
Right. I guess for me, the bigger narrative is the fatigue factor, right? This Philadelphia Eagles team, in particular the defense, they've been on the field a lot, and the Eagles offense, they've struggled to kind of sustain drives in the better part of their games, which in turn puts the defense back on the field rather quickly, and the defense is struggling to get off the field on 3rd down. So they're struggling to get off the field. Offense struggling to stay on the field. That's been kind of the narrative the past couple of weeks. And I'm curious to know, like, how much do you buy into the fatigue factor going into this 49ers game where the Niners are very well rested and they're as healthy as they've been all season?
It depends on the player. A little bit worried about it with Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, simply because they're not used to playing that many snaps, even dating back to college, because how good and how deep Georgia was. They sort of had that rotation and didn't ask guys to play a ton. And they had to play a heck of a lot. They both set their career highs last week. So many defensive snaps, as you mentioned. With other guys like Reed, I brought up, Reed played
100%
100.
Jeez.
Well, he played 21 snaps on special teams, so
That too. So, yeah.
he played 116 snaps, and that's a guy, people would say about Kobe Bryant, he could play 48 minutes and then, go play another 48 minutes. That's how I kind of feel with Reed. Yeah, that was a big thing with a certain reporter this week, and it's like, how can you play? He's 23 years old. The guy never sweats. There's not a hair out of place. He's not. You don't have to worry about his conditioning. He can play and play and play and play and play.
Right.
Somebody like Brandon Graham. That's why they have him on a pitch count. I would say the big guys, maybe a little bit of a concern, but what helps you there is they're young guys as well. They're going to be able to bounce back. I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Interesting. You bring up the fact that these guys
get off the field on third down, though. I think you should worry about that.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's been a struggle, right? And going into this game, defense is going to be something we keep our eye on. Obviously, we're going to pay attention to the offense and them actually having a stronger start than they've had the past couple of weeks, and we're going to discuss that as well. But again, this Niners offense, they have if the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs had a spectacular fastball and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, right? The 49ers have not only a crazy fastball, but they have curveballs and screwballs and cutters, and they have so many ways to really chop you down on the offensive side. When you think about Debo, George Kittle, CMC, Brandon Ayuk, that offensive line with Trent Williams and Brock Purdy, he's doing a great job, sort of being the maestro of that offense. How concerned are you about this Philadelphia Eagles defense when you think about how dangerous this 49ers offense can potentially be, especially when they're all healthy?
Well, you're always concerned with the 49ers. The 49ers have the best group. And yes, I'm including the Eagles. They've the best group of playmakers in football. When you add them all together, you just mentioned Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, even Jennings, their third receiver, can make plays. Nobody has better skill position. Elijah Mitchell, the backup running back, can make plays.
Better combination, right? No one has a better combination as those guys.
They have the best skill position group in the NFL. The Eagles might be, right there, number 2, top 5, whatever. But overall, they have the best skill position group. So, it's a tough matchup for everybody. That's why they go on these runs. They lost the 3 games when Trent Williams was hurt and Debo was hurt as well. They haven't lost a game when everybody's been on the field together. So that's kind of what you're facing. So everybody's got issues, not just the Eagles. And it's obvious what you have to take advantage of, and that's the 4 worst players on the San Francisco offense are the offensive linemen not named Trent Williams. So it has to be a big Jalen Carter game, big Hassan Reddick game, big Jordan Davis game. Milton Williams is going to be back. We'll see about Pletch. They listed him as questionable. He didn't practice all week. We'll see. They'll probably take that up to game time, I would imagine, try to play those mind games with the 49ers. So those guys got to have a big day. No question about it. And then you just kind of persevere. They're going to make some plays, score some points, and just got to make big plays in big spots. Go back to Monday night with Dallas and Seattle. Turned into a shootout. DeMarcus Lawrence with the 4th down stop, Micah Parsons at the end. You got to make plays in big spots in games like this. It's not always
Yeah,
going to be pretty. There's going to be some ugly moments.
yeah, absolutely. It's one thing I've been talking about all week is the fact that look, the guys that, in my opinion, that I'm most concerned about are George Kittle and CMC because they can truly take advantage of the middle of that field with the Eagles being compromised at linebacker. The Eagles elevated Ben Van Sumeren. Christian Ellis is going to play a lot. So they're definitely compromised at that linebacker position. What's your level of concern for that position right now?
Well, it's a weakness even when they're at full strength. So, yeah, I mean, as you start to lose players, and now if you go back to Nakobe Dean, right, they've lost both starting linebackers. So technically, you're playing backups at both positions. I think you're going to see a lot of big nickel, 3 safety looks.
I agree with you 100%. And I spoke about that earlier this week. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in known passing situations, Christian's going to play, and obviously you have to worry about Christian on Christian crime and stopping the run with Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
But known pass, I think you're going to see a lot of Kevin Byard essentially doing what Malcolm Jenkins used to do at times, playing pseudo linebacker, and Sidney Brown would rotate in with Reed Blankenship at safety, try to calm things down as far as the athleticism, maybe handling coverage a little bit better with all the playmakers. But it's a tough matchup. And, can you get home on Brock Purdy? If you can, you're going to be fine. If you can't, you're going to have some issues.
So you mentioned, right, the other 4 offensive linemen that you have to take advantage of, not named Trent Williams. Typically Josh Sweat is lined up on that, I guess.
It's going to be
on that side.
It's going to be a tough duty for Josh Sweat.
Exactly. So my expectations aren't necessarily high for Josh Sweat in this game. Me and Rob Ellis were talking about over-unders for sack totals, and I think we had what's the over-under for Josh Sweat? With half a sack, can he get 1? And I'm like, well, he's going to get Trent Williams. I'm going to take the under on that. Whereas the Hassan Reddick, he's going to be on the other side. Do you think? As a matter of fact, let me frame it like this: how creative does Sean Desai have to be to take advantage of the weaknesses of their offensive line? Right. Again, with the lack of talent at linebacker and with the back end being compromised most weeks, how can Sean Desai take advantage of this San Francisco offense? What can he do creatively to try to give his team a fighting chance? Because a lot of people are already counting this defense out.
Well, I don't know why they would count them out. But you're not going to
third down defense and all those kind of things.
You're not going to scheme up a pass rush generally. In other words, Sean Desai is looking at this as I got to protect my back end. Not I got to help my guys up front.
Okay.
This is a game where he looks at Hassan Reddick and the guys I mentioned, and Jalen Carter specifically, and said, you guys got to go win because you got to help those guys on the back end because they're the ones who have the difficult matchups. On the other hand, if you're Kyle Shanahan, you got to look at Aaron Banks and Spencer Burford and say, I got to help these guys. No, no, he's got to help. He's the one who's got to help. And that's a lot of Eagles fans still to this day. How could you not block Hassan Reddick? Well, it's the same thing. It's anybody who's watched it. Forget about Kyle Shanahan. You go back to Mike Shanahan. That's what you do in play action. That's on the quarterback. You saw it on Monday night with Geno Smith.
That was idiotic. Saying, oh my God, that was.
And idiotic. Everybody's saying Seattle and not blocking Micah Parsons. I got news for you. Micah Parsons made a mistake. They called a stunt. He and DeMarcus Lawrence. I got this straight from the mouth of
Okay,
coaches.
help me understand, because he came off untouched. And you mean to tell me he made a mistake? He wasn't even supposed to be there?
He made a mistake. The Cowboys called a stunt. If you notice, DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons both went to the C gap. That essentially means Micah was supposed to stun around and go inside, and that's why you saw the immediate slide protection, because they're thinking DeMarcus Lawrence that's what they're projecting. So it's an instance where that poor guy in Seattle, Shane Waldron's getting killed. Oh, how could you not block Micah Parsons? He's just so athletic. He made a mistake and made up for it in 1.4 seconds. If you notice the running back coming across, if he gets out and it's like 2 seconds, like a normal human being, they're going to have a 40-yard gain, maybe a touchdown, because nobody was going to get him. And that's most of the people focused on DK Metcalf, who was wide open as well. And he's just so fast. He made up for his own mistake, and he got to the quarterback before anything could develop. And that's why when people say, be very, very careful when you talk about so-and-so is a dumb coach or so-and-so is a great coach. And that's what I said about Kyle Shanahan. People are saying, how could you not block? How could you block us out? You'll see this from 97 Eagles fans, 97,000. How could you block for Hassan Reddick for a second with a backup tight end?
Yeah, right.
He's not supposed to block him like he's a tackle. He's supposed to chip him on the way. That's what the play action is. And the quarterback, it's the quarterback's job to understand the play, and the football's got to come out. It's worked a million times for the Shanahan offenses. And it's usually a very big play, but you got to execute. And when you don't execute,
great players take advantage.
Exactly. And so
wow.
Brock Purdy's elbow surgery was on Brock Purdy.
Okay. Hey, listen, that's because I think we spoke about that particular play before, but the Seattle Dallas one, that one was news to me. You just put me down on
you something. Know what? I got it from one of the Eagles coaches. And I said, because I was like everybody else. I didn't know it at the time. I'm like, wow.
Because when you see it in real time, you're saying to yourself, you left Micah Parsons unblocked.
Yeah.
But then part of me says, it's no way they were that stupid.
Yeah, they weren't. And he said, Shane Waldron, poor guy, he did the right thing. They had the right call on. And just sometimes, you got two guys going to the same gap. That's not what you want in football. And then I went back after he told me that. I went back and watched it again. And sure enough, you got two guys in the same gap, which tells you Dallas is the one making the mistake.
Wow.
And it just didn't matter. And then I doubled down and I went to another coach and I asked him outside the building. And I said, hey, this is what so-and-so said. You take a look at the play. What do you think? And he said the same thing. Yeah, they both hit the C gap. That's an indication. Now it's possible DeMarcus Lawrence. Now, the Eagles said, hey, we play them twice a year. We know how they play, basically. I think this is what happened. So it's not emphatically saying this is what happened. You never know 100%.
But typically, guys are in the same gap.
Yeah, they got a good feel for what Dallas wants to do in certain situations and certain accomplishments. And the other coach said, yeah, somebody made a mistake. It was either D-Law, DeMarcus, or Parsons. I think it was Parsons who made a mistake. But it didn't matter because the guy's so damn athletic.
Hey, listen, talent is a great deodorant. Let's move to the other side of the ball for the Philadelphia Eagles, right? This offense, right? Let's start with the offensive line here. The offensive line is going to have tough duty as well. Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, and now they've added Chase Young to the mix as well. That's tough duty for any offensive line. Now Lane Johnson, so far it seems like he's going to be active. I think he was a full participant in practice. But I want to get your spin on this offensive line, defensive line matchup for the Philadelphia Eagles. What are your immediate concerns? What do you expect to happen?
My immediate concerns, I never have too much concern with the Eagles offense. I think the Eagles offense, and I've talked about their hubris in the past, it's deserved at times, but I think when they don't perform well, they generally shoot themselves in the foot. It's always my mentality that in today's game, in the modern game, good offense beats good defense. That's just the way it is. If you can, I say it all the time, if you can block people, you can play offense, and the Eagles can block anybody. And that's where I think they have the advantage in this game overall from an overreaching standpoint. The Eagles offensive line is much more equipped to deal with the 49ers defensive front than vice versa.
Interesting.
We've already seen Lane Johnson versus Nick Bosa. Stalemate. Jordan Mailata against Chase Young. Eagles will be fine. Not to say Chase Young can't make a play.
I feel like they've always kind of battled back and forth. One game, one person gets the best of the other. One game, the other person. Because I think the second matchup.
Not saying Chase is. I think when I say things like this, people say, and then Jordan gets beat. Yeah, of course. I'm not. But it's not going to be a consistent, beaten like a drum type thing where you're getting beat play after play.
It's good on good at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing with the inside. Javon and Eric Armstead are very good players, but the Eagles have Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens is back, and obviously Jason Kelsey. So, their offensive line is very capable of dealing with any front. And that's, as I mentioned, San Francisco, on the other hand, has one Hall of Fame player and 4 Jags, just guys. So I think from an overriding standpoint, when I look at why I think Jody asked me week 5 when San Francisco looked like world beaters, and I said I'd pick the Eagles for that reason. I'm still picking the Eagles for that reason because they can block San Francisco, and San Francisco on paper should not be able to block them.
Now, key words on paper, these past couple of weeks, and obviously the quarterback position dictates this tremendously. They haven't been able to get home, but again, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, good luck with that. Now, Philadelphia Eagles, on the other hand, Jalen Hurts, very mobile quarterback, has been playing great football in the second half of his games, has struggled in the first half of the games. We talked about this on our previous Football 24/7. We kind of had a little casual debate, or rather, is it game planning? Is it play calling? Is it execution? You erred on the side of lack of execution on the offensive side, right? How important, well, let me not say this because you tend to answer my questions pretty similarly. And execution is always important, for one. Let's make that clear. But when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles execution, do you have any concerns based off the trend that they've struggled in the first half over the past 2 weeks?
No, not a concern. I mean, would you like to get off to better starts? I mean, last year they got off to great starts and didn't finish well. This year they haven't gotten off to great starts and finished it better. So it's sort of like the identity of the team, but it can change at any moment, and it can change from week to week. They do have to play better. I'm not saying they don't. If they play like they did against Kansas City, they're probably not going to win this game. If they play like they did against Buffalo, they're probably not going to win this game. They haven't been playing well, but when people started this stretch, which really started with Dallas before the bye, so you're saying the murderer's row of 6 games, and can you get out 3-3? You can't be underwater. They're already 3-0. I mean, now
it's almost comedic at this point, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, what are we talking about here? But yeah, the style points haven't been there at times. and they are living on a razor's edge. And you already saw it. They lost one game because Jalen Hurts made an uncharacteristic play at the end of the game. And that can always happen. And that's where you don't want to be. You don't want to be in that position if you're a really good team with a chance for an anomaly or the football bouncing the wrong way or something, and all of a sudden you lose the game and you're looking up and the season's over. You don't want to be in that situation. So they're good enough to play better even against good teams, and they need to play better. But yeah, I'm always going to lean on the players first, and they'll tell you. I mean, Jason Kelsey was mad at himself for the 2 false starts and making a 49-yard kick turn into a miracle 59-yard kick. You know, what if that turns in a negative direction? What if Marquez Valdez-Scantling catches the football in Kansas City? You don't want to be in those positions.
Right.
So they have to play better.
It's interesting, you know, you brought up that the way they played in Kansas City, you're not beating the Niners with that output. The way they played against the Bills, you're not beating the Niners with that output. Has there been a game that you've seen this season or a game that you can harken back to where you say, okay, if they play that way, they can beat this 49ers team?
There are a bunch of them. They played well against Minnesota early. They played really well in Tampa Bay. Second half against the Rams, they were lights out. I'm trying to think. Miami, obviously, you know, they played well. Washington, they struggled with. Even the Dallas game in the first half, I mean, they were leaking oil in the fourth quarter. If there's one game you want to blame the coaches for, I'd say fourth quarter, Dallas. That because they had that game completely under control, completely. And Nick went too conservative. Sean Desai probably waited a little bit too long to try to do some different things with CD Lamb. So if you want to blame the coaches, I'd say that game.
Okay.
Late, but not the whole game. Just late when they had the big lead.
And you don't do that often. So the fact that you're saying that means that it must have been pretty egregious in that fourth quarter.
Well, again, I talk about the modern game a lot, and when I said good offense beats good defense, and you know, in this era, especially when you're playing a team that's explosive, you can never rest on your laurels. You can never play conservative, especially when you're a good team and you can move the ball. So I think that was very uncharacteristic of Nick, and that's kind of the only reason. These teams score too much now, and you see it up every week. The good teams, obviously, there's some bad offensive teams, but with some struggling quarterback issues. But Dallas is not one of those teams right now.
So what do you think the Philadelphia Eagles should do to be able to, I guess, exploit or try to mitigate the stressors that guys like Chase Young and Nick Bosa can provide? Again, we know the Eagles offensive line can pretty much block anybody, but what do you think their game plan is going to be entering this matchup? How do you think they're going to try to get their offense going in a positive direction early in this matchup?
Well, the Eagles don't help their tackles. I mean, so forget about Chase Young and Nick Bosa. That's Lane. Hey, Lane, all right, you know what you're doing. Jordan, you know what you're doing. It's not to say they won't chip occasionally if things are going in a negative direction, but they go into every game. It's a luxury they have when Lane is healthy and Jordan's out there. They don't help their tackles. And it's not a luxury many teams have. And that helps them put more people out in, you know, nobody uses more empty sets than the Eagles because why can they do that? Because they have confidence that their offensive line is going to hold up. So they don't worry about stuff like that. as far as I already see some people, you got to run the ball early. You got to run the ball. I mean,
John's not the tree you bark up with that. I've
I,
learned it the hard way.
they're generally going to be, their belief is you pass to get the lead and you run the football to close the game in general. But I always say that's, it's dependent on how the game goes and the personality of the game. But yeah, they're gonna always be a little bit more pass heavy early in general, not always. In general, I don't think you're going to sit there and say, the best linebacker in football is the time to, hey, just hand the ball off to DeAndre Swift. Fred Warner is who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I think it's going to be your typical Eagle football that's sort of not, as I say it, not run first, not pass first, Jalen Hurts first. Let's see what's going. RPO's going, go RPO. Passing game's going, go passing game. What's Jalen got in the bag? Sort of feeling out a starting pitcher. That's how I kind of feel about Jalen Hurts. Is the pass ball working? Is the curveball working? Which one's working? Go with that.
I'm glad you brought Jalen Hurts up because he seems very meticulous back there at the quarterback position. Very like you said, he's surgical. He feels you out. He tries to stress you in certain areas to find out where can he break you. Jalen Hurts has had a very, very fascinating past couple weeks. He's had a fascinating past 4 weeks, if we're being quite honest. But more notably, the past 2 weeks, the Eagles are down double digits going into halftime. In the Bills game, they're down double digits going to the fourth quarter, and he has these late game heroics. In particular, that Buffalo Bills game, you kind of saw him put on the Superman cape, and he just kind of transformed. What's been how have you been looking at Jalen Hurts over these past couple weeks? Where has he evolved? How has he evolved in your mind, in your eyes, as a quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles? Is he beginning to position himself as being one of the most trustworthy quarterbacks in the NFL? I know I asked you a lot, but
well,
Jalen
he's the
Hurts
MVP of the league right now. If we stopped and we stopped right now, he's the MVP of the league. So I mean, that's pretty good. I would say that he'd be the first one to tell you they've turned it over too much. They'd like to, and Jalen's always very cognizant of ball control and not turning it over. So I think that's one of the disappointing parts for this offense is I think they've turned it over a little bit too much. And that would be the one thing I would say it's got to improve a little bit. But yeah, if you're number one, can't go up, you got to go down. So I think to this point, it's been pretty effective. And when you add in the fact that, he had that little hiccup with the knee injury affecting
I'm
the
glad you
running
brought that up.
game.
Where do you think he is with that? It seems to me he's slowly getting healthier. Is this? I know some people say you can't get healthier in the football season, but I don't know. It seems like he's beginning to trust that knee a little more.
Oh yeah, he's been much coming back from the bye. It's basically been business as usual. So he mentioned going into the bye, and he said selfishly at the time it comes at a great spot for him. He ditched the knee sleeve he was wearing, so clearly he feels a lot better. And it's no coincidence. You and I have talked about that a lot. All of a sudden, DeAndre Swift is back. Now the threat of Jalen Hurts in the running game is back. That's why DeAndre Swift is back. And the +1 of his impact on the running game is really big. And obviously the walk-off, you see he's feeling pretty good on that play. It's back. And when it's back and part of the Eagles offense, the Eagles are better. Simple as that.
Let me ask you a question about the MVP race. We kind of broached it a little bit. I was looking at the MVP odds, and Jalen Hurts is leading the odds right now, and then Dak Prescott is right there behind him. You know, for me at least, I understand Dak Prescott is playing very well. He's playing very well. Let's not kid ourselves. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to do, especially against inferior opponents. But to me, Dak Prescott hasn't necessarily had as many signature moments as a Jalen Hurts. Definitely hasn't played the level of competition um, on defense and at the quarterback position as Jalen Hurts has. Yet, you know, you see a lot of these narratives being kind of woven about, is Dak Prescott the MVP, and you know, what can Dak Prescott lose? What can Dak Prescott do to lose the MVP? Or has these past 2 weeks proven that Dak Prescott is the MVP, and all these things like that? And I'm thinking to myself, well, he played the Panthers, he played the Giants, and he played the Commanders. I mean, and of course the Commanders gave the Eagles some problems, but the Giants and the Panthers, I mean, I've never seen a quarterback get so much love and get so fat off of beating up on bad teams.
Your Eagles fandom is shining through here.
Yes, it is. I mean, I'm wearing the hat, John. What can you expect here? What can you expect? Come on. I'm shameless, John. Come on. I can't be professional the entire time.
Dak Prescott, I hate to break it to people, is having a hell of a year.
He's playing well. He's playing well.
He's playing great football. He's a really good quarterback.
He is. If he played for any other team, I would actually I would have a lot of love for Dak Prescott, but he plays for the Cowboys, so you know.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. If you look at PFF, the #1 quarterback in the NFL is Dak Prescott. He's never played better. He's never played at a higher level. Him and Mike McCarthy are working well together, and that's why next week's the game of the year, not this week, next week. And we'll see how that shakes out. You saw we got a lot of time to talk about that. I'm sure we will. And Dallas defense did not perform well, except in big spots, but the offense kept picking them back up. And Dak's obviously a big part of that. CD Lamb's having a great year. Yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I'm not going to lie to the people. He's playing really well.
Of course he is. Of course he is.
Great quarterback, smart quarterback. But yeah, he's never going to beat that. Got to perform in the playoffs. Until he does that, everybody's going to have the digs at him. And if you don't like somebody's opinion on somebody being MVP in week 13, just go to the next person. That's what I always say.
Yeah, that's true. Thank God the award isn't won in week 13.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, again, John, going through, you know, we do a lot of content, right? And look, I'll be honest with you, as professional as I try to be, it always leaks out, the Eagles fandom. I can't help it. It's like a leaky boat, man. You can plug one hole, but another one's going to try to pop, you know, show rear its ugly head. So, but yeah, you know, before we get out of here, John.
By the way, before we get out of here, I have to give the people an apology.
You owe the people an apology?
Yeah, I tweeted something earlier. There's this Twitter account, X account, and at NFL Rep Stats does a really good job. Works for Sharp Football Sportline. They basically break down NFL referee crews and penalty info and give you intel on what crews do what. You know, it's really more of a betting tool than anything else. You kind of get a feel for, this crew is going to call a lot of pass interference calls. This crew is going to call a lot of holding calls. You saw the crew on Al Michaels saying you should give Clete Blakeman the microphone, which was a great line because he called so many flags. So Alex Kemp is the referee for this game. And Alex Kemp happened to be the referee for 2 of the Eagles' losses last season. They only had 3. He was the referee when Dallas Goedert got hurt, and they missed the base mass penalty. And also when he's refereeing 49ers games, San Francisco's 4-1 in those games and 3-0 on the road. So
wow,
I thought it was interesting. I tweeted it out, and there's a lot of people haranguing and And I was just joking. I said, I'm going to get you started on your excuses just in case. So I threw it out there.
Why would you throw meat to the lions?
And I apologize.
While it's strapped to your neck, John. Why would you do that?
I don't know, man. I'm tired. I don't know. I said afterwards, man, I shouldn't have done that. And so that's my apology. Don't worry about the officials. It's not going to be the reason the Eagles win, lose, or draw.
John, just know people do not look for you to comedy, okay? Or look to you for comedy, okay? People do not look to you for comedy, all right?
I that's a mistake because I can roll out some material to them.
You know what? I actually think you're pretty funny, believe it or not. But that's just me. The Eagles fans probably not so much. But they don't know you how I know you, John. So again, before we get out of here, man, as always, I appreciate you for always taking the time out, to kick it with me on a Saturday, even though I know you could be doing a lot of different things right now, but I appreciate you, my man.
Yeah, I'm just about to get off and get yelled at. That's my next part of my day.
Oh man, I know what that's like. Anyway, final can you give the people the final update, or not? Let's not say final, but today's complete update of the injury report and what can be expected for those who may play, who may not play. Can you just give us the latest injury report before we get out of here?
Real quick. See, I got another one. The fix is in. They're all running with it now. I apologize. I apologize.
Man, listen, you guys.
Anyway.
Don't pay John any mind, man. He kids.
Yeah, it was a complete joke, but yeah, didn't go over. I should know. Subtlety is not the place for X. Yeah. Yeah, Fletcher Cox, Dallas Goedert would be the most interesting. Fletcher's questionable, did not practice at all this week. Typically, that means you're not going to play, but Fletcher's one of the few players on the team that I believe they will let him play if he's healthy, and I think that'll be a true game time decision. Dallas told me, as I said during the week, probably too honest for Nick Sirianni's liking, the doctors wanted 4 full weeks to make sure the arm healed correctly. Sunday would be 3 weeks and 6 days. He's trying to lobby them, which is why you got him back on the practice field. He feels fine. He thinks he can play. But I go back to last season when he broke a small bone in his shoulder, the glenoid bone. He said he was going to play when at that time he was on injured reserve. He said he's ready to go a week before, 100%. And they held him out a fifth game because they wanted that bone to heal properly. So I still think it's unlikely Dallas Goedert plays. You never know. Maybe he can win the lobby, but I still think it's unlikely. Milt Williams is going to be back. That's good, obviously. Zach Cunningham's not going to play. That's bad. And as I mentioned, I think you're going to see people are just hyper focused in on Christian Ellis. I think you're going to see a piecemeal approach. I think you're going to see a lot of big nickel as well.
Hey, there you have it, Eagles fans. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Also, make sure you guys are subscribed to the JAKIB Sports YouTube channel. If you guys want more from John McMullen, check him out on si.com. That's sportsillustrated.com, but typed in as si.com. And also check his work out on jakibsports.com. That's JAKIB sports.com. And on top of that, John does an amazing job with his partner in crime, Jody McDonald, on Birds 365. And
Brock Purdy's biggest fan. Get on Jody this week. He loves Brock Purdy like he loves his daughter, I think.
Yeah, troll Jody right now. I mean, he is a Jets fan, so I mean, Brock Purdy is his saving grace. But nonetheless, make sure you guys check John out and Jody McDonald out on Birds 365. In my opinion, the best show in the region covering the Philadelphia Eagles, arguably the best show in the country covering the Philadelphia Eagles. No one tells it like it is, like Jody Mack and John McMullen. So make sure you guys smash that like button and always stay engaged in the content. And always, you can check me out on Sports Take, filling in for our guy D Gunn, and I'm there with our guy Rob Ellis doing great work for 3 hours from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time. And also check out Dan Cilio on the National Football Show from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time. And on there, I do an hour segment. So make sure you guys lock in on all the content. Smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed once again. He's John McMullen, our Philadelphia Eagles insider, and I'm Tony DeShields II. And you guys been locked in on Football 24/7. And we'll see you next time. Take care.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messon Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messon Associates, the toughest injury firm